What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Belinda Carlisle. And we're returning to her 1987 album, Heaven on Earth. Thank you again to Phil for providing the Belinda catalog. Do I hear a Luca? I hear a Luca. And the next track is another one I am somewhat familiar with, which is to say Circle in the Sand. I don't know how many times I've heard this, but I think going back many years, and then at least a couple times in more recent years, I have heard this tune on the radio. So while I don't know the lines, I can't think of anything more than the sound of her singing the melody of the title phrase, I am not hearing this for the first time. So yeah, as to the imagery suggested by the title, I don't quite know what to make of it, and not remembering any of the verses, I have no insights in that regard, at least direct insights. I would just say it's a phrase which suggests enclosing a certain space relative to everything outside of it, and then drawing lines in the sand is certainly not only something that I think is more easily done than in other places or with other surfaces or materials, meaning sand is more easily moved than soil, or certainly than harder substances or surfaces like concrete or wood, but it also is something that people do when they're trying to either create something for aesthetic purposes, or it does make me think of writing SOS on a beach if you've been stranded somewhere, so it could have more practical purposes, but I expect it to relate to romantic or psycho-emotional involvement with another person, so I'll see what I can pick up on not a first listen, but a first listen in a concentrated or focused manner, whereas again, I've heard this tune going back many years, but always in the background on the radio as I'm doing other things. So the melody of the title phrase does come back to me, but I'm basically going in blind, so to speak, for the full song. So here it is, Belinda Carlisle, Circle in the Sand, from her 1987 album, Heaven on Earth.
All around, walking through the summer sand. Waves crash, baby, don't look back. I won't walk away again. Oh, baby, anywhere you go, we are bound together. I begin, baby, where you end. Some things are forever. Circle in the sand, round and round. Never-ending love is what we found. And you complete the heart of me. Our love is all we need. Circle in the sand, circle in the sand. Cold wind, tide moves in, shivers in the salty air. Day breaks, my heart aches. I will wait for you right here. Oh, baby, when you look for me, can you see forever? I begin, baby, where you end. We belong together. Circle in the sand, round and round, rising up the moon as the sun goes down.
Love that rasp.
Circle in the sand, round and round. Never ending love is what we found. And you could be the heart of me. Our love is all we need. Circle in the sand, circle in the sand, circle in the sand, circle in the sand.
Song gets an extra 10 bonus points for a really compelling and longer than expected conclusion, in the way that the melodic and bass and percussive elements faded from the song gradually and were still flourishing a little bit, and obviously overlaid with the sound of lapping waves, which seems to speak to the themes at play: never-ending cycles, infinite cycles, not just long-running or long-lived cycles, but those that are, in a way, part of larger infinite cycles, meaning, talking about the sun rising and setting, the day and the night. Those are durations that have beginnings and end, but when you back up from that, they're part of larger, longer cycles, the rotation of the Earth, the orbit of the Earth around the sun, and this idea, almost, speaking to that, I think, Nietzsche line that, time is a flat circle, the idea that this is never ending, and, the beginning of me, like the end of you is the beginning of me, so even representing her and this other person she's speaking about as one other, or an additional infinite circles. So circles less, as I was thinking about in advance, about, creating a space independent from everything else outside of it, though I suppose you could still see it that way, and that she's saying, it's her and this other person, and in the same way that the waves, will always keep crashing in and so on, and the way that the cycles of celestial objects and the Earth itself are, for all practical purposes, for our much shorter human lives, they are infinite, they are unending. She and this other person are part of this unending cycle and should always be so. I will say, though, it sounds like she's asserting it rather than acknowledging, or rather than saying the other person feels the same way. So the other person could feel the same way, but it does feel like we're maybe only getting her side of this story, and that it's about her conviction for what they are, and not necessarily describing their perfect and harmonious relationship. So maybe I'm reading too much into that angle on it, but again, it sounds like it's her perspective on this, not necessarily objective reality. But yes, this idea of different parts of the same process, and the circle in the sand seemingly being an immediate visual representation of this unending connection that they have. So ultimately, I love the sonics. They have this nighttime feel, not necessarily like a power ballad, because there's some drive and energy to the tune, so it's not what I would necessarily call a ballad, but it's not exactly a guitar rocking tune. Now, I do think we hear both acoustic guitar and some electric guitar flourishes, and I love those. I think they were guitar, very rapid fire, like plucked type of melodies. I even wondered for a moment, is that a harpsichord? But I think it was just an acoustic guitar, but played very rapidly and effectively, melodically. And then, as I said, a couple 80s electric guitar flourishes as well. But yes, it gave me a nighttime type of vibe, which fits with me thinking of the waves crashing on the beach, because I'm seeing that at nighttime with the moon overhead. So Yes, definitely a very compelling tune sonically, and then her vocals. I love when she gets a bit more raspy, which feels like we haven't heard that too much on the self-titled album or necessarily on the Go-Go's album that I went through. It felt like maybe this was the best example of that so far, where she got really forceful and a bit gritty in some of her moments vocally, which I absolutely enjoy. And as I said, I like the way it leads into the title phrase, which it then proceeds into the chorus. So yeah, definitely a cool tune. I get why this one would be a major hit. Ultimately, I'm curious to hear if there's any others going forward where I don't remember them by name, because again, I think going into this, the first two tracks on this album were the only ones I had a sense of from Belinda going back before I started reacting, much less reacting to Belinda specifically. Though it is possible that, given she's an 80s artist and I heard a lot of stuff on the radio growing up, there might be more that it's like, oh wait, I recognize this. But in the moment, I think only those two tunes are ones that I had some sense of being familiar with going into it. But yeah, top tune, absolutely enjoyed that. Do let me know what you think. And Luca, such an objection. Let me know what you think, and she and I will see you next time. Peace.